They say if you drive down Highway 359 in the dead of night, you'll never come back the same. Locals whisper about the haunted road that cuts through the swamps of Louisiana, a place where the rules of life and death get blurry. I didn't believe in ghosts, not until I got the midnight route and found the faded sign that read, "Obey the rules or never leave." What started as a routine haul turned into a descent into a nightmare I might never escape. The night I took the haul through Highway 359, the air was thick with humidity and regret. My name's Caleb Moore, been a long-haul trucker for 15 years. I've driven through blizzards in Montana, heat waves in Arizona, and all-night fog banks in Oregon. Nothing ever got to me. But Louisiana's got a different kind of atmosphere. Something in the air here ain't right. Like the land itself remembers pain. I felt it the second I crossed into St. Landry Parish. That night, the dispatcher offered me extra to cover a graveyard route after another driver bailed. I didn't ask why. Hazard pay, he told me with a dry chuckle. You'll see why. The cargo was nothing unusual. Pallets of sealed crates, contents undisclosed. Picked it up at a loading dock outside Lafayette. The guy who handed me the paperwork didn't make eye contact. His hands trembled as he passed me the manifest. "You sure you want to run this route?" he asked. "Why wouldn't I?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "Just keep your eyes on the road. Don't stop. And if you see a white dog, don't follow it." I laughed, thinking he was screwing with a new guy on the job. "White dog, huh? Got it." His face stayed deadly serious. "Don't laugh. People who break the rules on 359, they vanish." I chalked it up to Southern superstition. Every region's got its ghost stories. But as the night stretched out and the GPS turned me toward Highway 359, I felt something shift, like the road itself was exhaling. There was no mistaking it when I reached the start of the route. No major signs or road markings, just a rusted green marker nailed to a tilting post that read, HWY 359. A crude hand-painted sign hung beneath it, and no lights after mile 6. No music after mile 9. No talking after mile 13. And at the very bottom, scrawled in red paint, never, ever follow the white dog. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. I looked around. No other cars, no houses, just a stretch of cracked asphalt cutting through swampland and shadow. The cypress trees loomed like watchmen, dripping with moss, and the dark seemed too thick, like it'd wait. I turned my headlights on high, shifted into drive, and rolled forward. The first few miles were uneventful. The cab was filled with the low hum of my engine and the soft static of my usual midnight radio station. The air outside was motionless, unnaturally still. No chirping insects, no wind, just silence. At mile 3, my headlights flickered once, then stabilized. I chalked it up to the bumpy road. At mile 5, I thought I saw a movement out of the corner of my eye. Something darting between the trees. Probably a raccoon, maybe a deer, but it moved with a peculiar, jerky gait. I tightened my grip on the wheel and kept driving. When I reached mile 6, the lights cut out completely. Not just the truck's headlights. The dashboard, the GPS, even the radio, all went dead in the same instant. My heart kicked into high gear. I was moving 50 miles per hour in pitch black, relying only on the pale silver outline of the road under the faint moonlight. Then I remembered the sign. No lights after mile 6. I took my foot off the gas, coasting slowly down the center of the lane, afraid to brake too hard in case the truck jackknifed it. The weirdest part? My engine was still running, smooth as ever. The electronics were just off. I rolled down the window, listening. Still no sounds outside. Even the insects stayed quiet. That's when I saw it. A white figure loped into view on the side of the road, just outside the reach of moonlight. My stomach clenched as I recognized it. A large, white dog. It wasn't glowing exactly, but its fur almost shimmered like mist. It stopped walking as I passed and looked up at me. Its eyes weren't normal. They were human. It tilted its head, and for a second, I swear I heard a voice, not out loud, but in my mind. This way. My hands twitched on the wheel. I almost pulled over. Then the warning came back like a gut punch. Never follow the white dog. I forced my eyes ahead, heart racing, knuckles bone white on the wheel. The dog ran alongside me for nearly half a mile. Its feet didn't touch the ground. It moved like a projection, a memory. And then, just as suddenly, it veered off into the woods and vanished. My headlights blinked back on a mile 7. The dashboard lit up, the GPS recalculated, and the static on the radio returned. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, but the road was no longer the same. The pavement had shifted, cracks spiderwebbed out like veins, and the trees were denser now, leaning in closer as if eavesdropping. The swamp mist had thickened and swirled at ankle level, moving with an unnatural purpose. At mile 8, I saw the first silhouette. It stood in the middle of the road, tall, thin, unmoving. I slammed on the brakes, skidding a few feet. The figure didn't flinch. It looked like a man in an old trench coat, but his face was wrong, blurred like a smeared photograph. Then he vanished. No footsteps, no turning, just gone like he'd never been there. My breathing was ragged, my pulse in overdrive. I wanted to turn around, call dispatch, anything. But the road behind me was swallowed by mist. The GPS screen had frozen. The truck only allowed forward motion now. I'm not kidding. When I shifted to reverse, the gear stick wouldn't budge. Like the truck itself refused to disobey the road's rules. At mile 9, the music stopped. The radio, which had been softly playing an old country tune, went dead. I tried switching stations. Nothing. Just silence. Then I remembered. No music after mile 9. I turned the knob to off and kept driving, afraid to break the pattern. At this point, the tension in my chest felt like a physical weight. I was drenched in sweat, even though the AC was still blasting cold. My hands ached from how tightly I gripped the wheel. The trees were so close now, I could see things hanging from their branches. Dolls, bones, pieces of cloth stained dark with age. Some of the dolls twitched in the windless air. I passed a sign at mile 10. It was old, nailed to a tree. You were being watched. No kidding. I started seeing things in the rearview mirror. Flashes of motion, ghostly hands brushing across the back window. But every time I turned around, there was nothing there. At mile 11, the road split into two. No signage. No GPS help. The left path looked smoother but darker. The right path was lit faintly by lanterns strung between the trees. Before I could decide, a figure stepped into view again. Same man, same blur face. He pointed toward the right path, then vanished. I took the right. As soon as my wheels crossed the split, the mist thickened into a wall. My headlights barely cut through it. Then came the tapping. From inside the trailer. 3 short knocks, then silence, then 3 more. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I pulled the cab's microphone to call dispatch, but it only hissed static. Then, in a distorted voice, something whispered back, "You're late, Caleb." I dropped the mic and floored the gas. barreling through the fog like a madman. At mile 12, something screamed behind me, loud, raw, inhuman. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what had climbed into the trailer. Finally, I reached mile 13. A road marker stood beside a crooked tree. And that's when I remembered the last rule. No talking after mile 13. So I shut my mouth. But someone else didn't. A voice whispered from the passenger seat. "You're doing well. Most don't make it this far." I didn't look. I didn't breathe. I didn't respond. My peripheral vision caught the shape of a woman sitting beside me. Long black hair, face turned away. She didn't move. She just existed. We drove together in silence. When I hit mile 14, she vanished, just like the man before her. The GPS blinked back to life. The road smoothed out. The mist cleared. I was back on a regular highway. And just like that, the nightmare ended. Or so I thought. I checked the clock. It was 3:59 a.m. I had entered Highway 359 at midnight sharp. It should have taken me 30 minutes, maybe 40 max. But nearly 4 hours had passed, and I had no memory of most of it. My hand was shaking. My shirt was soaked. My mouth was dry. I pulled into a truck stop, stumbled out of the cab, and dry heaved in the parking lot. When I opened the trailer, the pallets were gone. In their place was a single crate, sealed, nailed shut, and covered in red writing. "Delivery complete. Do not open." I backed away slowly, heart hammering, because carved into the side of the crate was the image of a white dog staring up with human eyes. You ever hear a rule so strange, it makes you laugh until you realize it's the only thing keeping you alive? When I took my rig down Highway 359 for the second time, I thought I was just chasing answers. But the rules were chasing me. And this time, something followed me back. Something I was never meant to carry. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after my first run on Highway 359. My dispatcher acted like everything was normal, like I hadn't just lost a trailer full of cargo and come back a whisper away from a mental breakdown. I kept replaying it over and over. The white dog, the phantom passenger, the whispering CB, and worst of all, that crate. The crate I'd never opened, but somehow felt like I'd delivered something alive. When the guy in coveralls took it without signing for it, I knew deep down I'd broken one of those rules. And rules on 359 weren't like stop signs or way stations. These were rules like gravity. Break them, and you didn't get a warning, you got a punishment. But something strange happened 3 nights later. I walked out to my truck parked behind a rest stop just off I-10. The sun was going down, and the warm Louisiana air was thick with humidity. I tossed my coffee on the floorboard and climbed up into the cab. And that's when I saw it. On the seat next to me, where the ghost woman had been, was a single dog paw print. Not muddy, not dusty, white, almost like chalk or ash. But it wasn't powder. When I touched it, it was wet, sticky, blood. I went through every camera on the dash cam rig I'd installed after the first trip. Nothing. No footage. Just 6 hours of static. I thought maybe I was cracking up, until the CB flared to life that night as I was cruising down I-49 near Alexandria. I hadn't touched it in days. It buzzed, popped, and her voice filtered through. "You saw the crate. You carried it. Now it's yours." That was all. No static afterward. No signal loss. Just silence. I pulled over, heart thudding in my chest like a war drum, and checked the trailer. Empty. Locked. Same as it had been since I returned from 359. Except now, there was a new addition. Carved into the inside of the trailer wall was a message. The letters gouged deep into the metal with something sharp. Return it before mile 13, or become the next hauler. That's when I made the worst decision of my life. I went back. Midnight again. I found the entrance to Highway 359 like before, just past an unmarked turnoff outside a church point. The crooked, rotting sign stood tall, now with even more warnings scribbled onto it in red paint. No lights after mile 6. No music after mile 9. No talking after mile 13. And now a fourth. Don't haul what isn't yours. I passed mile 1. The heat faded instantly, replaced by bone-deep cold. Frost crept across my windshield, even though it was May and 85 degrees outside. Mile 2. Something whispered through the AOC vents. A name. Caleb. I didn't answer. Mile 3. My GPS spun out of control. The truck's dashboard began flickering, warning lights flashing like a heart attack in progress. At mile 4, I passed a black sedan parked sideways on the road. The headlights were off. Inside, I could see the faint outline of a man staring forward, mouth wide open, unmoving. His eyes followed me as I passed. Mile 5, the white fog returned, rolling and heavy, thick as wool, swirling around the tires like smoke. And then, just after mile 6, every light in the truck died again. Headlights, dash, tail. Everything went black. I kept my foot steady on the pedal, following muscle memory through the mist. It was suicide, but somehow the road kept bending around me like it remembered where I was going better than I did. That's when I saw it. A shape forming in the dark. It wasn't the white dog this time. It was the crate, standing in the center of the road, not on a trailer, not loaded, just there, as if it had walked there on its own. I slammed the brakes. The tires shrieked, and the cab rocked forward violently. When I looked up again, the crate was gone. In its place stood a man. He was tall, inhumanly thin, wearing a trucker's uniform at least 2 sizes too big. His face was a mass of road rash, chunks of missing skin, like he'd been dragged for miles. He stepped closer, one leg dragging behind him. I honked the horn. He didn't flinch. Then he raised one hand and pointed at my trailer. I checked my mirrors. Empty, but the trailer door was swinging open, even though I'd locked it tight. I jumped down and ran to the back. And I swear to God, I saw the crate inside again. Not an illusion, not a ghost. Real, heavy, covered in dirt and dog hair. It had followed me. I stood there in the cold silence, staring at it. And then I noticed something new. On the side of the crate, below the dog symbol, was a brass plaque. Tarnished, but readable. Property of mile 13. Do not transport past the gate. My breath caught in my throat. The gate. I passed it last time. And now, I was a carrier. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't touch the crate. Couldn't even make myself move. My body felt frozen. Then came the scratching. From inside the crate. A soft, rhythmic pawing, like something was trying to dig its way out. I backed away slowly and slammed the door shut, chained it up, and got back in the cab. I turned the key. The engine didn't start. Instead, the radio came on all by itself. This time, the woman's voice wasn't soft. It was angry. You brought it back, but you brought it too far. The trailer jerked suddenly, rocking side to side. The cab shook violently. I heard growling. Biting. A chain snap. I screamed and floored the accelerator. This time, the truck started. As I sped past mile 9, the stereo switched on and began blaring static-filled music. Something old from the 1940s. A jazzy tune with warped lyrics. Carry me home. to the bayou below. I yanked the cord, shut the radio off. Silence felt like a guillotine, and then the trees changed. They were no longer oaks or cypress. They were crosses. Dozens of wooden crucifixes lining the road like telephone poles, each one wrapped in barbed wire. And hanging from each cross, dogs, hundreds of them, white-furred, black-eyed, silent, watching, judging. By mile 10, the crate began to hum, a deep, low vibration that I could feel through the steering wheel. And with it came something else, memories that weren't mine, a flood of images. A boy in the 1930s opening the crate during a storm, a highway worker digging it up in the 60s, a trucker in the 80s who tried to burn it. All of them ended the same way, dragged screaming into the fog by the white dog. I was shaking, sweating. The white dog was in the mirror again, running alongside me. Its eyes were human, and it was smiling. At mile 12, a storm erupted out of nowhere. Thunder boomed. The road disappeared in wind and rain. But in the center of the lane was another sign. This is your final warning. Under it, a body. I couldn't stop. I drove over it. And the moment the wheels passed over the figure, the crate burst open in the trailer behind me. The growling intensified. Then came the laughter. Not the dog's. Hers. From the passenger seat. I turned my head slowly. She was back. Pale. Soaked in blood. Her mouth wide. Teeth too many. And she whispered, "You passed the gate again." Then she vanished. When I reached mile 13, the road ended. Just ended. No gravel. No dirt. Just a black, bottomless void. The truck screeched to a halt on the edge. Behind me, the crate tumbled out of the trailer. Shattered now, splintered in a perfect starburst. Something white and shapeless crawled out from within. The white dog. But not just one. Dozens. They surrounded me, silent, patient, waiting. Then I heard the voice again, this time, Al. You belong to the highway now. You didn't return the dead. And the ground opened up beneath me. I woke up hours later, at a rest stop outside Lafayette. Truck intact. No trailer. No crate. But on my arm, burned into the skin, was a word. Carrier. And now, every road I drive eventually becomes Highway 359. Even if it's not supposed to be. Even if the GPS says otherwise. And every night, when I sleep, I hear the growling. And every day, the rules grow louder. Because I passed the gate twice. And now, I am part of the rules. You think when a nightmare ends, you wake up. But what if waking up only drops you deeper into it? Ever since I passed mile 13 on Highway 359, the second time, I've been hunted, haunted, and worst of all, marked. But I'm not alone. There are others like me, carriers. And now I know why none of us ever make it home. I hadn't driven in a week. Not because I didn't need to, but because I couldn't. Every time I walked near the truck, my skin would break out in cold sweat. My left arm ached constantly, right over the burn that read Carrier. I tried washing it, scrubbing it with bleach, even burning it with a cigarette. Nothing helped. The skin would bubble, peel, and the word would still be there, raw and red, as if freshly branded. And then came the knocking. It started on a Tuesday night. 3 soft raps on the door to my motel room at 2:37 a.m. I looked through the peephole. No one. Then again, 3 knocks. I opened the door. Empty parking lot. But on the ground, dead center of the doormat, was a single object. A CB radio microphone. Mine. It had gone missing the night of the second trip. Wrapped around the mic cord was a sheet of crumpled notebook paper. stained and torn, but legible. 6 words were scrawled in grease pencil. Meet us, midnight, Rattlesnake Diner. And below it, we're all carriers now. I had no choice. Midnight came, and I was already halfway down an old state road in a borrowed Jeep. The Rattlesnake Diner sat on a forgotten stretch of road just past New Iberia, surrounded by swamp and silence. Its neon sign blinked sporadically, casting long shadows over the parking lot. Every car looked like it had been parked there for a century, some rusted into the ground, others swallowed by vines. But the place was open. Inside, it smelled like burnt grease and old coffee. A jukebox in a corner played a scratchy version of Blue Bayou. The waitress didn't speak, didn't blink, just nodded toward a booth in the back. 3 people sat waiting. None of them looked surprised to see me. There was a woman in her 60s with a jaw that didn't quite close right. Her name was Martha. She'd been driving livestock rigs out of Texas since the 70s. Then there was Deshawn, younger, twitchy, wearing mirrored sunglasses at night and gripping a flask with shaking fingers. And finally, Charlie, tall, broad, face like a boulder. Didn't say much, but his eyes were full of things he'd never tell anyone. They all had the same mark on their arms. The word, carrier, and all of them had seen the same road. Martha spoke first. So, you went past mile 13 twice. I nodded. Deshawn took a swig and muttered, "Damn fool." Same as me. That's when the waitress returned. She set 4 mugs down and leaned in close enough for me to smell something rotten and wet on her breath. "You passed the gate, sugar?" she asked, voice crackling like static. I nodded again. She didn't smile. "Then you've got about 3 more nights before the dogs come for your soul. Same as the rest of these meat puppets." She turned and walked away, muttering something that sounded like a hymn and a curse at the same time. The others told me everything. Highway 359 wasn't a highway. It was a threshold, built in 1936. The road was never finished. Workers vanished. Machinery failed. Locals said the land had once belonged to a Cajun woman accused of witchcraft, a garden war, burned alive by the town council. Her dying curse wasn't on the people, but on the land. Every time someone tried to build there again, they disappeared, until the state quietly paved over it, pretending the history didn't matter. The road became a trap for drifters, especially truckers. And eventually, the rules appeared. They weren't posted by humans. They were carved into wood, scratched into concrete, etched into road signs that changed depending on who saw them. "The rules ain't for your safety," Charlie finally spoke. "They're for theirs. The things that live between the miles." I asked what we were supposed to do. Martha leaned in and whispered, "Break the cycle." They showed me the map. Drawn by hand, creased and oily, the paper outlined a route through the deepest part of Highway 359, a trail beyond mile 13, where no one was supposed to go. It ended at a place simply labeled The Lot. Charlie lit a cigarette. "That's where the original crate is buried, the one none of us were ever supposed to carry." I asked what was in it. Deshawn looked up slowly. "You ever heard of a Bayou Devil dog?" I laughed. He didn't. "It's real. A cross between something wolf, something human, and something wrong. Been passed from truck to truck since the 50s. It only shows up to those who break the rules. And once it's chosen you, you're marked. You're a carrier until you pass it off, bury it, or get eaten alive by it." I looked at my arm. The burn itched. The skin was starting to peel. Charlie stood up. "We're going to the lot. Tomorrow night. You're coming with us." That night, I tried to sleep. I couldn't. The dreams came hard and fast. In them, I was driving a truck that wasn't mine. The road kept looping. Mile 9, 10, 11, then back to 7. And in the back, the crate moved. Every time I looked in the mirror, my own face stared back, but it was wrong. Elongated, mouth stretched, eyes black, and then the crate burst open. A blur of white fur and teeth came at me through the cab. I woke up screaming in the motel bathtub. My arm was bleeding. Claw marks. The next night, we drove in convoy, 3 semis, one after the other, back to Highway 359. Deshawn led. Martha followed. I took the rear. As soon as we crossed the boundary near Church Point, the temperature dropped again. Our breath fogged the cabs. The mist returned, rolling thick across the road like waves. The signs flickered past. Mile 1, Mile 2. The rules appeared again, burned into my mind. No lights past Mile 6. No music after 9. No talking after 13. Charlie's voice came through the CB. We talk now. After 13, mics go dead. I gripped the wheel tighter. Mile 4. The sedan appeared again. This time, there was no one inside, but the headlights were on. A voice buzzed through the CB. Static heavy. You're all too late. You always are. Martha shouted over the channel. Ignore it. Mile 5. The fog became blinding. All 3 rigs activated fog lights, but it didn't help. We moved in total silence. Engines growling like beasts trying not to wake something deeper. Mile 6. My headlights died. Dashboard went black. The only thing visible was Martha's taillights ahead of me, swaying in the mist. And behind me, the soft, rhythmic sound of pause. Mile 8. The crate appeared in my trailer. No explanation. No sound. It was just there, covered in hair, wet with blood. Something inside it scratched. Mile 9. I heard laughter. My own voice. Not for me. The radio burst on again, playing a warped version of You Are My Sunshine. I yanked the cord. Silence. Mile 11. A shape appeared ahead. Not the gate. Something else. A signpost, bent at an impossible angle, with a word etched onto it. Return. Charlie's voice crackled through. We're close. Martha added, You see anything, don't stop. Just keep going. Once we reach the lot, the road will open. The mist began thinning. We passed Mile 12, and that's when I saw them. The other carriers. Dozens of trucks, wrecked, burned out, half sunk in the marsh along the roadside. Every cab door open. No drivers in sight. Except the eyes. Each rig had someone still sitting behind the wheel. Frozen, desiccated, with eyes wide and white. Watching. Mile 13. The CB went dead. All 3 rigs coasted in eerie silence. Ahead, the road changed. It became gravel, dirt, then mud. The trees leaned in like they were trying to block us. Then, suddenly, the headlights flickered back on, revealing a clearing up ahead. The lot. In the center of the clearing was a giant pit, surrounded by chains, crosses, and broken crates. It looked ancient, and inside the pit, something moved. White, shaggy, massive. The devil dog. It was waiting. Deshawn was the first to back up toward the pit. His trailer door swung open. The crate tumbled out and rolled forward. The devil dog sniffed it, then turned its head, looked directly at me. No, at my truck. It knew. It knew I still had the original crate, the one I'd passed beyond Mile 13. Twice. It bared its teeth and began walking. No, crawling toward me. Its paws left prints of blood and shadow in the mud. I jumped out, ran to the back of the trailer. The crate was there, vibrating. I tried to push it. It wouldn't budge. Charlie screamed, "You have TO, say it." I shouted back, "Say what?" Martha bellowed, "The burial command. It's in the mark." I looked at my arm. The word carrier had started changing, melting into something new. A phrase, cave canum. Latin. I shouted it. Cave canum. The crate hissed. The devil dog stopped, then turned and leapt into the pit, dragging the crate down with it. The lot exploded with light. A sound like 1,000 train horns shook the air. Then silence. The mist lifted. The road reappeared. And the mark on my arm? Gone. We left the lot just before dawn. None of us spoke for hours. Charlie finally muttered, "You did it." I didn't answer, because as we pulled back on a Highway 359, something whispered through the vents. "You carried it too long." And on the CB mic, in faint red letters, a new word had appeared. "Watcher. You think ending the curse frees you, but the road never lets you leave untouched." I thought I buried the devil dog. I thought I walked away clean. But then my CB lit up again with a word that changed everything. Now I know being a carrier was only the beginning. Now I'm a watcher, and they're watching me too. I didn't drive for days. I stayed holed up in a different motel. Far from the others, far from 359, far from that pit in the woods where I left part of myself behind. But the mark never really leaves you. I learned that fast. It started with the mirrors. The bathroom one first. I'd look into it, and sometimes, just for a second, my reflection wouldn't move. I'd blink, and it would stare. I was just a little too wide, mouth too still. Then it started smiling. Only I wasn't. One night, I smashed the mirror. A spider web of cracks bled across its surface. But behind them, my reflection still stood whole and smiling. Next came the dreams. Not the howling, not the devil dog. Worse, I dreamed of headlights. Hundreds of them, all parked on an endless black highway. Rows and rows of rigs, silent, empty, except for their drivers. Every one of them looked like me, burned, hollow-eyed, screaming soundlessly. Each had a word burned into their chest. Watcher. The message came 3 nights later, written in fog on my windshield. Return to the loop. I knew what it meant. Highway 359 wasn't done with me. I was a watcher now, and watchers had duties. We didn't just survive. We watched the next ones, the next carriers. I didn't want to go back. God knows I didn't. But the world around me began to crumble. My phone stopped working. Motel lights flickered constantly. I couldn't keep food down. I'd go to the gas station and see the same people in the exact same positions every time. Stuck, trapped in a loop of my own. The road wouldn't let me live outside it. That's when the CB mic, disconnected and silent for weeks, buzzed to life on its own. Static hissed, then a voice. "He's on the road now, just like you were." I asked who. No reply. But deep in my gut, I knew. Someone else had crossed mile 13. Someone else had broken the rules. And now it was my job to guide him. I hit the road before dawn. The mist was waiting. Even without a GPS, my rig knew where to go. The wheel turned too easily. The gears shifted on their own. It wasn't just me anymore. I was being driven. Back on 359, the road looked different. No longer cracked and overgrown. It was smooth, freshly paved. Too clean, too new. The signs were missing. No mile markers. No rules. Just fog, thick as wool, swallowing everything past the headlights. But the CB was alive. And the voice was back. A man, young, terrified. "Anyone out there? Please, This is Jake. I think I'm lost. Jake. Another carrier. Another lamb on the way to the slaughter. I press the mic. Jake, you need to listen to me. You're on 359, right? Why, yeah. Trucking east. Picked up a load outside Shreveport. Supposed to be heading south, but the signs started disappearing. I've been driving in circles. I can't turn around. What is this place? I told him the truth, as much as I could. I explained the road, the rules, the mile markers. His voice trembled. I think I saw something back at mile 8. Looked like a dog, but big, white, light glowing. No, that couldn't be. I'd buried it. But maybe you don't bury monsters like that. Maybe you just delay them. I drove fast, trying to catch up. I saw the gate again, bent, rusted, just past where the mile marker should have ended. The air was heavy with something unnatural. My windows fogged up, even with the AC off. My breath came out in clouds. And then, far ahead, headlights, a rig, swaying slightly. Jake. I pulled up behind him, flashing my brights. His CB buzzed. I see you. Oh God, thank you. Something's been following me for the last 2 miles. Thought I was going crazy. I looked in my mirror. Nothing there, but the air smelled like wet fur and sulfur. I keyed the mic. Listen carefully. You're about to hit mile 13. Don't speak. Don't stop. Don't look in your mirrors. Jake hesitated. But why? The lights behind him flickered. A shape darted past on my left. Fast. 4-legged. Screeching claws on asphalt. I slammed the mic. Go, Jake. Now. He obeyed. Both rigs tore down the blacktop. The fog thickened. I saw shadows moving in the trees. Not animals. People. Watching. Some missing eyes. Others with their mouths sewn shut. They were the dead carriers. And now they followed me. Because I was a watcher. Jake screamed through the CB. It's in my trailer. I didn't stop. I swear I didn't stop. I checked my mirrors. Still nothing. But up ahead, his trailer began to sag. Like something massive was moving inside it. I yelled, "Don't open it. Don't stop. You have to keep going until the lot." Jake sobbed. "What lot? What the hell are you talking about?" And then the worst thing happened. The road ended. Abruptly. Just ended. No warning. No signs. Jake's truck skidded sideways. Mine stopped just behind him. We were at the edge. The loop was gone. Only a field of shifting shadows and ash stretched ahead, dotted with charred trees and the occasional flash of white teeth. And, standing in the center, the devil dog, alive. Its fur was brighter, cleaner, eyes glowing hot white. It had fed, grown stronger. Jake started to climb down from his cab. No, stay in the truck. I screamed, but it was too late. He opened the trailer door. The crate was gone. In its place, a mirror, a huge, black glass mirror. Jake stared into it, and then fell to his knees. He didn't scream, didn't run. He just withered, like something inside him was sucked dry. And the devil dog watched, not moving, waiting. I stepped out. I couldn't help it. The dog's eyes locked onto mine, and then it spoke, not with a voice, but into my mind. "You watch. That is your curse. You carry no more, but you witness." I fell to my knees. The air was electric. Every sound disappeared. Even my heartbeat felt muffled. The dog turned to Jake. One massive paw crushed his chest like a paper cup. Then it dragged his body into the mirror. Gone. Just like that. The mirror shimmered. And in it, I saw myself. But not as I was. As I would be. Old. Alone. Eyes gray and distant. Sitting in a truck cab that had become part of me. watching others forever. I woke up hours later, back in my rig, parked at a rest stop just outside Lafayette. Was it a dream? The CB crackled. Static. Then, he's gone. Another one lost. It was Martha's voice. I hadn't heard it in weeks. I pressed the mic. Is it over? Silence. Then, it never ends, Caleb. Not for us. I've driven 10,000 miles since then. Never back on 359. But sometimes the fog rolls in on other roads, and I see shapes in my mirrors. Sometimes young voices crackle through the radio, asking if I can hear them, if I know where they are. I always lie. I always say no, because I do know. They're on 359, and if they're talking to me, it's already too late. You think the story ends when you leave the road, but 359 isn't a stretch of highway. It's a living thing. It watches, it chooses, and it never lets go. I try to escape. I try to forget. But now I know the truth. If you survive the ride, you become part of it. It had been 6 months since Jake disappeared into the mirror. I still hear his last breath when I close my eyes. Still see the way the devil dog stared. Not with hunger, but recognition. Like it knew I'd be back. I tried to build a life after it. I really did. I parked the rig for good. Sold it off. Took a job at a warehouse in Baton Rouge. Got myself a little apartment. Started eating regular meals again. Learned to smile at cashiers. Pretended to be human. But I couldn't forget. Not the way the world warped around that road. Not the loop. Not the dog. Not the watcher's curse. And not the mirror. God help me, especially not the mirror. It came to me in real life, not just in dreams. I'd be walking down the hall and see a flash of black glass in a picture frame. I'd look at my coffee cup and see my reflection ripple, like I was underwater. Once, I passed a wrecked 18-wheeler on the interstate, and its shattered side mirror flashed a reflection of me, standing in the cab, even though I was 100 feet away. The road was calling me back, and something deep down whispered that this time, if I returned, I'd find the truth. The origin of 359. It started with a letter. No return address. Inside was a single, grease-stained napkin with 4 words scrawled in red ink. You have one more run. Folded inside it, an old truck key. Not to my rig. This was older, maybe ancient. Attached to the ring was a silver medallion, the face of a hound. Its eyes hollow, its teeth bared. I fought it for 2 weeks. Refused to touch the key, burned the letter, tossed the medallion into the river. But each morning, it was back on my nightstand, waiting, calling. I gave in. You probably think I'm crazy. Maybe I am. But something happens to you out there. When you've seen what 359 is made of, it's not just asphalt and ghosts. It's judgment. It's eternal. And it needs a witness. So I borrowed a rig. Didn't even tell the company. I just left. Midnight. New moon. No lights but the stars. And no GPS. Just the pull of something older than roads. I hit Highway 359 at 3:33 a.m. The exact same minute I'd first entered a year ago. Only this time, it didn't look neglected. It looked reborn. Smooth pavement. Fresh white lines. No potholes. No rusted gates. No warnings. Just an endless stretch of silver-black road under a churning sky. I passed mile 1, then mile 2. They flew by quicker than before. Too quick, like the truck was being pulled. Then the mile markers stopped. The sky turned red, and the dog appeared. Not on the side of the road, not ahead, but in the cab with me, sitting in the passenger seat. It didn't speak. It didn't snarl. It just watched and nodded. Then it was gone. I saw the loop, but this time, I didn't get caught in it. I drove through it, through the fog, through the screaming of the lost souls, through the sound of teeth gnashing and chains snapping. And then, like a thread breaking, silence. The world changed. Suddenly, I was in another place. Not Louisiana, not even Earth, maybe. A desert, endless and black, made of crushed bones. No stars, no sky, just a single black road curling into a spire that rose into a blood-colored sun. This was the heart of 359, and I had arrived at its source. There was a door at the base of the spire, not wooden, not metal. It was made of old rig cabs, welded together, stacked, burnt. Each one etched with a name, dozens of names, all the watchers before me, and mine was glowing, freshly burned. Caleb Turner. I opened the door. Inside was the office. That's what it looked like, anyway. A dusty truck stop counter, coffee machine burbling, an ancient fan squealing on the ceiling. And behind the desk, Martha, older, paler, eyes white as the devil dog's. "Glad you made it, sugar," she said. She explained everything. 359 wasn't a road. It was a test, laid down centuries ago, before America, before asphalt, before maps. It was a ritual path, made to carry the worst parts of humanity: guilt, violence, hatred. The road devoured them. It used carriers to ferry that evil into the void, where it would be consumed. And when a carrier survived, they became a watcher, guardians of the boundary, witnesses to what lay beyond. But sometimes, Martha whispered, a watcher ain't enough. I swallowed. So what am I now? She smiled. You're a breaker. I didn't know what that meant. Not until the walls peeled back. The office melted away, and I stood in a circle of mirrors. Each one reflected a different road. Some through forests, some through cities, some through space. All were haunted, all were alive, and each one was breaking, fracturing under the weight of human evil. Too much pain, too much rage. Even the road couldn't contain it all anymore. It needed someone to seal the cracks, someone who had carried, watched, survived. Me. I didn't agree, not at first, but then I saw them, the people I'd failed. Jake, the faceless girl from the trailer, the truckers who burned in loops. Their eyes pleaded, not for help, for release. And I realized I was the last one who could. So I stepped through the first mirror. What happened next? There are no words. I saw a road made of screams, drove a truck made of bone, faced beasts with no mouths who roared through your thoughts. I sealed gates with blood. I erased mile markers with fire. I drove for a year across dimensions. And when I returned, 359 was gone, wiped clean from maps, from memory, even from my logbooks. Only a scar remained on the land, a long, dead line where nothing grew. I'd ended it. The road had been broken, but it came at cost. I can never stop driving. Not forever, because evil doesn't die. It reroutes. It builds new roads. And sometimes, when I rest too long, the key returns. Sitting on my table, medallion glinting, my name still burned into its surface. So I get up. I climb into a borrowed cab, and I drive. Alone, watching, waiting, because someone out there is about to take the wrong turn. And when they do, I'll be on the other end of the radio. The end.